All right. I am watching Riot Erupt at Tommy Robinson protest with Roaming Millennial on the Tim Pool channel. And they are just adorably polite. See, when you're mixed, you're raised to be very polite to people and please and thank you and all these things because it's like, you're raised kind of with the hope for high culture, and so uh, at least in San Francisco, that was very often the case, and often because you're praised by female teachers in a way that they because they find you sort of fascinating and exotic. Um, that you learn to garner certain kinds of responses from people and be charming, and it's also because of certain, the things of not really having a lot of the norms of behaviors of either or both sides, and because of personality traits are inherited. Yeah. So anyway, in watching this, where they're being good journalists, they're being solid. This is I want to make sure it's understood. They are being absolutely principled. They are correct. They are being moral. Everything about this. It's just this part of me that's just like, oh God, will you drop the take the halo polish? Okay, we know you don't like riots. We got it. We don't. Okay. And then they did this to the police and it's like okay. Here's the deal. Okay. Um, this is not new. This is not new. EDL, when they were doing their various protests, would were always they were tightly controlled. Now this is very important to understand. All counter protesters, and especially absolutely militant Islamic groups like the kafiyas, the pajamas, the beards, the whole flags of other places, all of it. Stuff written in other languages, women in blankets, the whole deal. Nothing. In fact, a phalanx of guards around these people. The whole thing about this is they are always marching in some way to take the fucking piss out of the English. Everybody wants to just fucking pretend this isn't going on in throughout the Eurosphere and the Anglosphere. This is what Soros and all this kind of stuff is really about. This is what the left is so goddamn polite, and they're always, and it's like, no, 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 no. You need to stop this. You need to stop pretending that when you sat around certain dinner tables, they didn't fucking talk about the fucking whites. You need to stop pretending that these motherfuckers did not have resentment against them because the white people won. That's what they see it as. Where the white people see themselves as descendants of people from various European countries. There's only a certain kind of group of white Americans who've been here so damn long, they are just simply white. They have had so many different bloodlines in their background, they just can't even keep track anymore. And yeah, so many people immigrated here from the early 1900s, latest 1800s, and on, like such a huge number that a lot of those people brought, especially a lot of ideas. They are the descendants who thrive on the whole white guilt industry and white guilt culture. Um, these are the people who introduce "will burn your factory down," because that's what we did in the old country. No, no, no. I know you are a normal American person, but we are from this other place, and we assault people for frolic, and we drink a lot, and so we shake people down, and but now we're going to call it a union, and that's why Chicago is the way it is, and keeps continuing the way it is, because nobody will just fundamentally face that there are groups that like sticking it to the Anglos. They kind of like sticking it to the squares. They stick it to the whites. And that this is this group that you've been able to that all these people have been able to kind of bleed out. And then there's some minority group, these model minorities. Everybody knows what we're talking about. That they ended up just kind of sequestering themselves because they kind of got sequestered, and then, but then also they were like, no, fuck it. We'll just all you've got to do is not declare the money. When they ask, why didn't you write this down? You go, I know, I speak Chinese. That's all you got to do. You do that for about a generation. They'll tell you to pay some fine. You pay them, you're okay. You know, and so the Chinese have benevolent societies, and they were able to give each other loans, and they had this elaborate system of loaning money to one another within basically historic clan, great large lots of families that are grouped together that are from all the same village, a city of like 50,000 people. Um, so different groups have ways of kind of you know dealing with multi-generational wealth because they have some model that works in a setting where they're colonists and then eventually become settlers. Where I mean, because the Chinese, the idea was they were kind of a labor colony, and then they were going to go back, but then they settled, and this was and yeah, that's from my background, California. You learn a lot about this. Um, this thing of the Muslims just going out of their way to not be in any way, shape, or form British, where the Jamaicans and the Trinidadians, and so for a generation, I mean, there was sort of this image of the Jamaican in a suit, next to the mod, in his stay pressed sweater vest and Ben Sherman, that all at the same concerts and stuff. Um, this whole idea that you could find these old pieces of footage of like of African Jamaicans, like that, on Carnaby Street, dressed in the same 60s wares that all the other people are wearing and stuff. That this idea of trying to really to fit in, but fit in their way. Now, while that wasn't universal, there was a great attempt at it. And that dies really about the 70s when the American kind of black power movement moves into mostly through the music and the fashions of the time, and also the sort of collapse of the British Empire. And then by 77 you get the London garbage strike, and that's 77 punk. And so that's when it's just a nightmare world. And you have songs by the Specials, Ghost Town, that just London was this horrid, misty, place with murder and crime and drugs, and just it was this ghost town. And the war didn't help any of this either. People like roaming millennial and Tim don't really understand how this anger now that is built as the Muslim community has simply not adapted. Where somebody like the Sikh community, where people, really are like, well, though they might look different, they actually will most of the time try to fit in. They're really not trying to stick it to you. They're not dressed like some beef eater, from another era of time, and they fit in, they do what they do their ritual things and stuff, and the whole deal, but they otherwise they fit in. The the Indian, like the Hindi Indians, and stuff like that, non-Muslim Indians, that a lot of them that have really gone out of their way to try to fit in and not have, like, wear sort of odd things from the old days, maybe the what's it collar, the Nehru, a Nehru jacket maybe, but I mean, but nothing, it's this thing of like, well, yeah, I mean, I live in Britain, that they seem to have a better, these, I just keep getting all these sort of this feedback that they've all kind of fit in far better, where over the last generation, specifically the Islamic community is just like, we love sticking it to you. And now with the police going out of their way, that this is obvious, that across the country the police have gone out of their way to cover up the just child sex trafficking. That so one of the key things also about this is, so the the peasants revolt and the rules established after the peasants revolt, and then a lot of the general rules and laws and customs after Cromwell and the Civil War, the idea that the citizens are not protected, that you can systematically, like, rape all the daughters. This is one of the most important ones. This is one of these things where that was specifically, that's continental. That doesn't happen in Britain. That you could have a lord who he gets the first night with all the fresh brides. That's specifically something that they at a certain stage were able to say, that happens over there. That doesn't happen here. Here, a man has rights. A man has rights over his family. And so even so, when you have these stories then of people who then fought for their rights, that are specifically, like, was it, not Beowulf, the one from Scotland with the guy's painted blue and he gets his nuts lopped off at the end and the whole deal. And I mean, like, all of that really showed like this French Normand culture, the descendants of these French Normans sticking it to the Scots. Like, really, like, we already took a lot of your ancient treasure. You pushed us back, and now we're back again, and we're going to do everything we can to humiliate you. We're going to humble you, and that's what this was. This is where finally these young men were like, we are no longer going to be humbled, and we're not going to get caged in. Look, this is one of the key things they are not seeing, because these are two young people who are not violent. That stream of police that come in, and then suddenly the crowd turns on them, that was all that. It doesn't matter what the fuck was going on. There was nothing that evidenced that crowd was getting unruly. That crowd looked totally normal. They were not leaving the space when that stream of police came in, and then a phalanx and then a wall was formed. That they knew exactly what they were doing. They were starting fucking shit with the crowd, because that's what they do to the EDL guys. And now this is something beyond the EDL, and they wanted the whole idea was this was to humble them. They were going to humble these guys. They were going to probably pull a few of them out of the crowd, arrest them for something or other, knock them around, just to let everybody know, like, stop the Muslims get your daughters. And people like Tim shouldn't. You're insane. What a nutter. Roaming millennial. She shouldn't. Oh my God. Come on now. You should think that. People like me get this. We get it. I get it. People like me get this. That's what this is. You have to hurt your opponent. Like, there's a degree to which it's like, there's a fight that it's like, it's a good test of skill, but there's sometimes where somebody's like, does something that's like, ooh, okay, and that you sting them back, and at a certain point becomes, okay, you want me to to do something that really hurts. Got it. I got okay. This is and there's this is one of those things that when you know somebody, when you have a feud, a beef with somebody, and you have to handle it's one of these things of that there's the days of the older days where it's like somebody gets knocked down and that's it. You like you knock that cat down. This cat's like he's seeing stars, and it's like ha, that's ha ha. Now from Generation X and on, you get the people, they start stomping people who are on the ground. This honorless way of behaving, and that became something that you started to see more and more. There were specific groups in San Francisco that were associated with this. Um, in the 90s. Now, this is just very common. You knock them down, and everybody, and you and all your friends start stomping them. That's just the norm now, and it's especially the norm among almost all groups that are non-white in the first world. That the idea of kick them when they're down, and especially stomp their head in so they'll die. That's always and especially in some way humiliate them, like pull their clothing off, things like that, and laugh, point and laugh, record it for World Star. All of this is these various ways that there's these groups that they no longer have a form of leadership in the legislature that people can actually think that person's like me and represents my interests and represents them fairly. The whites are just taking it on the chin because they can't, they're all polite. They don't get this. They're not getting like these people are now at numbers and poisoned by socialist ethno collective thinking that they are now plotting against us as a group because we provide the majority of the tax revenues. This is why, as a libertarian, I'm like, no, you just start eliminating all central taxation, and everybody gets to start their communities. Suddenly, you'll see what their communities are really made of. But what this was that the police this was the humbling. They came in for the humbling. They were going to start hauling off a few guys, kicking the shit out of a handful of dudes. Probably some of the smaller guys too. They were probably. I bet they were going to grab one of the nice young guys. Let them know you shouldn't get involved in stuff like this, young man, and and really make somebody eat some shit, and because that if you don't know about the history of nationalism in Britain since 70s, 80s, and 90s, like the skinheads and stuff like that, you don't really understand this. That you don't get how this massive turn that's happened, where the police are really, they love getting up the ass of anybody who in some way, shape, or form is going to insult the Muslim community, and to the point where that it is a surveillance state that is kind of backwards, because now these people, the Magna Carta just fundamentally kind of doesn't exist now. You insult Muslims, the Magna Carta doesn't apply. People are getting that. They don't know how to say it because they're just normal British people, but they know, they're like, no, we are being humbled, we are being humiliated in our country, and for what appears to be no reason. I keep telling people you need to look at there needs to be an investigation of the Quilliam Foundation and the influence the Quilliam Foundation has on Parliament, because I'm thinking it all goes back to them, because people just need to know about who Lord Quilliam was. That's it. That is such a weird story. Once they just find out who this guy was, that he existed, the whole deal, they'll end up being like, what the fuck is happening in Europe? Like, you look up Baron von Sabotendorf and you look up Lord Quilliam and you're like, whoa, what the fuck is up with these guys? Suddenly, it'll totally change your worldview. But that They just don't get it. They're nice people. They're good reporters, but they don't get this was the humbling. The riot squad came in. They were going to start putting their boot up somebody's ass, and all the boys ran them out. And now the police know, like, oh my God, the whites might just riot. If the whites are allowed to get together, if the loyalists, if these people who are British, good British people get together in too large a number, they will repel us. And so to some degree, what's really up is nobody nobody should be caught dead being like, oh, the violence. Oh, like if Sargon, do not look like a bitch. You need to defend the anger of the British man. It is time now. There's a reason to be angry. There's more than enough reason. This is a massive plot. And this is so British. Like, oh, did Tommy end up in the wrong prison? Oh, well, I will certainly talk to my assistant about that, and just as soon as I have. Oh, but first I have to make sure I pick this delicious lamb out of my teeth. Mmm. And people just don't get it. It's like, no, they're humiliating. I wear a wig and a robe when I go to work. Don't you understand? Tommy Robinson, with his tanning salon and his English Defense League. Oh. These people are villains, descended from long lines of people who've been raping British daughters until finally it was like somebody was like, "We're about to fuck. You're gonna get the fuck in the tower. Get the fuck in the tower." It's like, "Oh, don't kill me," and it's like, "No, what do you want? What do you want? What, Tyler? Don't kill me," and so until you make when it comes to this kind of thing, contract is beautiful because you could sue people. But at a certain point, it's obvious that there's no justice. So you do have to make people who wear wigs and robes and are weirdos and have soft, soft hands and are very soft and kind of pale from all the time they spend inside. They have to be afraid. They have to fear. Because until this antiquated thing we call government can be made into something far more efficient by using, I don't know, any form of modern technology. Can you imagine a help desk, a real help desk in the government? Well, until that happens, no. What this is that these are these people who they're this natural form of parasite that's in the Anglo and Eurosphere. It's a thing that we breed, and these people they are clipboards, and they are looking for boxes to check off, and everybody in some way, shape, or form kind of owes them a bit of fealty. They've got things to tell people. They've got a world to tell how to run. Doesn't mean it's going to run well. It's just the way that they would prefer things. I want that over there, not there. It's just, I don't like that. And that's what that was. Oh, could you run in there and just grab a few of them? Just put your boot up their buttholes. You don't understand. You see, they'll disperse. They'll disperse. There's quite a number. There's about 1,000 of them now. Rabble. Oh, Tommy. Oh, you'll see. Oh, I love a good lamb dinner. And so they had to get shown what for. They had to be shown what for. It was a moment of pure oi. Oi, run them out of here. Oi, get them, boys. And that's magnificent. Because now the police will be like, oh my God, dude. I mean, if we have to carry arms, and I mean they're going to be given all these choices. They can't go there. They cannot be armed dealing with pro-Tommy people and EDL people and pro-British people. They cannot be seen armed and like with the British being like, that can't happen. The moment that happens, Tommy Robinson completely and totally wins. Brexit it's just a done deal. And on top of it now, one of the best parts about this is for real for the nationalists, the far right, stuff like that. Britain's government has to get punished, and there really has to be an understanding now. I mean, I really beg people who watch this, like, pass this message on to people. The common British man, thumbs up. Fuck how he votes. Thumbs up. The government, Corbyn, May, all these people, they need to get as much shit talked about him as possible. Mockery. That's the big one. Mockery. That horse-faced one who's always complaining about feminism. Mockery. Pure mockery. Especially the feminists and labor. Now it's time to go to town on them. So then they have to react. So the Guardian, Daily Mail, all of them are like, oh, why has YouTube said all these terrible things about... And then, oh, I wear a wig and a robe, and I'm going to throw on my Templar mantle, and I am going to come riding along to, oh, my lady, none of these internet trolls shall troll you, and it's, and no. Oh, no, we will. Oh, you'll have to ban every goddamn thing on the goddamn internet. Make them fucking work. Make them work. Just keep talking shit. Just humiliating memes. And these people, they'll fold. That's the beautiful thing about the British. The British get funny. They get it. They can laugh. And that's what, and it wouldn't hurt. I mean, come on. We're going to have to, you're going to have to mock the Muslims. I mean, just period. I mean, it doesn't look like there was a Muhammad. But anyway, I'm going to keep pressing that point. Fander Films, Pfander Films. I don't think there might not have been a Muhammad. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there, that the violence is completely understandable. This is not like Antifa. Antifa is just communist trash that want to cause disorder. These are a bunch of people these are oppressed people. These are people who the law is being used to make an example of them. They're being made an example of. Over and over and over again. This is every event. Every single fucking event is this. Like the what's his face? Ralphie? Right? Little Ralphie or something like that. It just there's like a whole rape island off the coast of Britain, like in the Channel, that has an issue like this going on, like where you just can't you can't get anything done about. All these people are like, yeah, we're just the normal people who live here, and there's like a whole bunch of like estates on this island, yeah, and they just regularly like rape our daughters, there's nothing that can be done about this. And at some point, and now, the British, they can't say this, they can't say that. Grandmothers are being taken in for saying things like, oh, have a gay day, do. And then the police come after her. These are people being oppressed, and they're having the shit taken out. They're having the piss taken out of them. And violence now or violence later. Decide. I mean, it's really decide, because they can't get justice. And the police will only fuck up. They'll only fuck up. This is all they've got left, is to fuck up and fuck up and fuck up until this fucking explodes. Yeah, it's going to be rough. There's nothing but bitterness coming, here and over there, until it's understood. If you want to take the piss out of people, you're going to fuck with the bull, you'll get the horns. You keep fucking with this bull, you'll get the fucking horns. Later.